Okay, all right. Good day once again. Welcome to today's class. Today we'll be looking at an interesting topic in product management, Agile Product Development Practice. Product Development Practice. So basically, in product management, there are frameworks, methodologies that product managers use um, to manage the development of their products. And some group of people have come up with several approach actually, and in a way whereby it's easy and quick and fast for product management managers to be able to release or launch their product or develop their product and launch them in due time. All right. And Agile is a methodology that is being used for that. And within Agile, there are still several there are, there are frameworks or methodologies under Agile, which we're going to look into today. All right. Today's table of content, we have what is Agile product. We're discussing what Agile product development means. We'll be looking at what are the Agile principles. So there are several principles that guides how how you use Agile in terms of developing your product or your softwares. We're going to look at the difference between Agile Roadmap and Waterfall. Right, Waterfall is the initial management approach that was being used, which is more linear, you know, before the before Agile comes, eventually comes on board. All right. We'll also be looking at Agile Product Development Process. We're looking at the Agile Development Methodologies and frameworks. All right. We're looking at the Agile Product Development roles and responsibilities that are entails in this methodologies. We're discussing Agile Product Development Practices and Techniques. We'll also be looking at scaling Agile for larger projects. All right. I don't want to go into context, but yeah, we'll be looking at it as well. And we'll also be looking at Agile Tools and Technologies. Okay, so what are the tools that are being used when you are using Agile, to develop your product? Remember in our last class, we talked about a lean methodology, which you use use an MVP and things like that. That is also like a method when you are literally just trying to validate your product, the viability, visibility of that product. But now there is a certain framework which is used in pretty much all product managers use it, which is Agile. And we're looking at what does this mean and how can we make use of this method. So just so you know, Agile methodology is a more robust approach. To be honest, there's separate courses or separate certification that you probably want to have as a product manager, which is being certified in Agile. It's a very good certification that you should have as a product manager. It helps companies to know that you understand these frameworks and you know how to make use of them in your in the place of work and in terms of developing your product. So what is Agile Product Development? Agile Product Development refers to a set of product development practices and method based on principles and values of Agile Manifesto. So there's something we call the Agile Manifesto. We're going to look into what that is. All right, Agile Product Development. Team build products using short iterations that enable continuous feedback and rapid improvement. And this short iteration is what we call sprint. All right. So the whole idea of Agile is the fact that you are able to, build a particular thing, some section, some portion of what you're trying to build in short iterations. All right. How will I explain it now? so that you can quickly get feedback and know whether there's anything you need to change, anything you need to improve on, anything you need to enhance on before you continue to the next phase. All right. So that's the beauty about Agile. All right. Um, Agile methodology is iterative approach. All right. Um, to project management that focuses on breaking down project into smaller and more manageable tasks. All right. So interesting thing about Agile is also it can also be used in project management product. It's also used in project management, all right, whereby you can break down the project into smaller tasks, manageable tasks, compared to the traditional project management approach, which is waterfall, like I mentioned. Agile is, it prioritizes speed, flexibility, cross-functional team collaboration, and frequent feedback. All right. So it's all about how fast can we put this out? How adaptable are we in terms of, you know, you know, um, adaptable in terms of, adapting to feedback and changes that we're getting based on the review and the testing that we are doing and all of that. So team continually evaluate requirements, progress, and results so that they can respond to changes quickly. Yeah. So just like I mentioned, the whole ball game to Agile is the fact that it makes it adapt. It makes it easy for you to respond to changes quickly. You can the future, right? A portion of your future in a way whereby you can quickly um, test it, evaluate it with your requirement, and see if it actually achieved the outcome you want to achieve, and if there's any change that needs to be made to make that changes. All right, so this is literally like a picture of how agile looks like. Every circle you're looking like is a sprint. All right. So the first sprint, so you have like a in um in Lean, we talked about the fact that you are prioritizing, our former class, we talked about prioritization, right? Not this previous class. In our previous, we talked about prioritization, right? So you probably would have prioritized um, all of your features, your stories, prioritize them, all right? But the way you're prioritizing them, you prioritize it in the way whereby you can, remember we talked about that when you're bringing out an MVP focus on your core functionality that can get the work done, all right, which is usually the smallest version of your product that can get the work done. That's literally what your MVP is. So when you're creating when you prioritize and you you look at the things that you can you then prioritize and have a set of features that will go into your sprint, all right, whereby you design, you test, and you review it. All right. So you design it. The first sprint you design, you build, you test, and you use. Everything's happening simultaneous. In a not really simultaneous, but it's happening concurrently. Right. While a team is designing, a team is building. While a team is building, a team is testing. While a team is testing, a team is reviewing. So, for example, now I don't have to wait till all of the design is complete, all right, before another team start building. I don't have to wait till when we finish building the whole solution before we now start testing. I don't have to wait till all of the testing is done for the whole solution from beginning to the end before we now start reviewing and start knowing whether we are changing that. Imagine you spent, in waterfall, which is linear. Imagine you spent 3 months, or 2 months, or 1 month designing, in terms of 1 month, right? All right. Of course you got your feedback, but instead of then you use another 3 months or 4 months to start developing. All right. No testing was done, nothing. After the 3 months, you use another 1 month or another few weeks to test. And when you now test, you're now realizing that there are some things that should have been improved, refined, you get things that if you had started reviewing it way in that period when you started building, you will have caught it way earlier and make the changes quickly rather than waiting till all the solution is built. And sometimes it even gets pretty difficult for you to even start finding start working on the errors or the bugs or things that you found that you need to optimize and need to change because you've so much build a robust solution and it becomes so much work for you to start changing some things again. So which is why it's all about prioritizing some core features, breaking them smaller, And as you are done with a particular section, a particular smaller task, you hand over to the next team. Then you take up another one and keep designing. So as designers are done with the smallest portion of the product, they're handing over to the developers. Developers are building that one, getting review, building it, you're testing it. So that cycle just keep going, sprint after sprint. So a sprint, you will have said that these are the things that we are looking to achieve in this sprint. All right. You build that, test it. When you're done and you're good, you launch. You go to the next sprint. You check, do that, you launch. Go to the next sprint, do that. So you'll be going that based on what you're prioritizing, based on all of your backlogs. Let me start with, we'll get there. I'll explain what backlog is. You get there, you start testing over your sprint, designing, building, testing across your sprint, and then launching. All right. So I said product development process is divided into sprints or iterations. So you can either call it sprints or iterations, right? Short periodic time frames that usually last from 1 to 4 weeks. Most sprints, right? Where I work, right? Our sprints are mostly 2 weeks, right? And it's very effective to manage like that. All right. Okay, 1 second. All right. I think it should be working now. All right. So each sprint starts with planning the meeting where your team, your cross-functional team, come together to discuss and prioritize. Remember, I've been emphasizing on prioritizing your prioritization, right? So your team comes together, and which is your cross-functional team, which entails your design team, your development team, your QA quality assurance team, your your product team. In fact, if you have marketing team, sales team, I mean, if it's a product that you want to factor all of those team, marketing and all of that, you bring them all. No matter depending, it doesn't matter how large your team is or how how large your team is. You bring everyone together. Not very large in the sense. When I mean large, I mean in terms of categories of your team. There's sales, there's QA, there's developers and all of that. Right. So you guys come together, you discuss, you look at the features that you're trying to build, and you then prioritize your work and say, okay, these are the things that we need to get done. All right. So every iteration is like a small project. So what you then do now, you after prioritizing, before you break it down to smaller projects such that all right. So yes, I said every attrition is like a small project that includes all stages of product development process. So you are looking at in a way whereby all the project takes 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 the form of each stages of your product development process. So from product discovery to release. All right. So during your discovery phase, you probably want to have a sprint that or iteration that covers that period. All right. For example, now remember when we talked about we started with user research. All right. So maybe your first sprint, right? Your first sprint was all about doing your research and all of that. You get the moment your first sprint, you're done with your research, you've gotten your feedback and all of that. The next sprint, the research is still ongoing, right? You might not be done with your research yet, but from your first set of sprints, what you get, all right, you can refine it, come up with develop the concept, and have the engineer start creating a prototype within the next sprint. All right. So as the next phase of research is still going on, some teams are already working on creating a prototype for that. based on the feedback they've gotten from customers and all of that. You get that, test that within that sprint, do your review, test it, and see. Doesn't matter the phase. So in all phase or all stages of your product development, right, you can have a sprint that captures all of it. So I said once the sprint ends, the product team presents the working product, a minimum viable MVP to customers and stakeholders. All right. So at the end of the sprint, there should be something that you can show, a particular set of feature that is working that you can show. All right, or rather a minimum viable product that you can show that this is working. So maybe the first sprint can focus it on a particular feature that you're trying to push out or you're trying to release. So first of all, what are the things that you need to understand? You understand that you need to get the requirements. Maybe the product, what's it called? Um, some tasks can be given to some team to, in getting requirements and stuff like that. Another task can be given to, from the requirements, from the previous requirements, can then be given to the engineers, bring it to some engineers to build that feature out within that sprint. All right. So I'm going to break it more down further so that you guys can really understand what I mean. So the goal is to create something simple that they can iterate on based on user feedback. All right. So the goal is just make it as simple as possible. It might take multiple iterations before you launch the final product, but for each sprint, there's something you are launching that is working. Did you guys get it? So for sprint one, you might say that we are working on, for instance, now for sprint one, you might say we're working on the search functionality. All right. And everything that needs to happen, every requirement for you to be able to create that search that search in a way that you want, that would help your user. You want to search a location, pull out data from several locations, pull out data about some user data, things like that. So those informations, all of those things, those requirements will have been gotten already by the product manager and be documented within that sprint itself or previous or before that sprint. Then all of the things that need to be done, the front end part, the back end part, all of that, is broken down for each member of the team to start working on it, such that by the end of that sprint, right, by the time you've developed, you've tested, you've reviewed, you should be having a functional a functioning search feature. Do you get? And that is working. All right. The next sprint you're working on, let's say, uploads, or no, upload is too simple. You're working on automation. All right, you're trying to process. All right, or you want to automate the documentation process, things like that. So per sprint, you are taking functions and you're working on them per sprint, breaking them down, working on them per sprint, such that by the end of a certain, the iteration can get up to like 10 or 20. Sometimes it's continuous, to be honest. Most companies continuous because development is still continuous. So across the iteration, there's always a point where you can then say that, oh, we have most of all of the things that we have, that we can then have the final release to then show to the release to the users, right? So that's how it is. So, or release to the market. So what are the values that Agile upholds? All right. So in Agile, it is individuals and interactions over process and tools. So Agile values individuals and interactions. So before you start thinking of what tool shall we use, what process, that is more concerned about who are the guys on your team, what are the individuals that you have what are the individuals that are building, working on your team. How are they interacting? How are they collaborating? How are they are they are they able to interact and things like that? So then the second value is working software over compressive documentation. All right. So it's not like and again, understand that it's not like we do not value processes or tools, but we value one over the other. So both of them are necessary, but one is more valued over the other. So the second one says working software over comprehensive document. So I was even discussing with a friend earlier today about, he was saying something about the fact that, there is being stressed over documentation. Even the app, it's not good. They've not started getting the app working. And I'm like, you guys are not agile, because if your focus is still having a robust document, and the app is still not get, it's not where it is, you're not agile. All right, you're not agile. So there's a way you can break your tasks down in a way whereby it is comprehensible for your team, and your work is to ensure that your software is working. All right. Of course you should have detailed documents. But first of all, major focus is let's see a app that is working. Let's see a app that is functional. Yes, we can get the documentation detailed and all of that, but let's have a working software. The next one says customer collaboration over contract negotiation. All right. So in Agile, the main thing is how can you get feedback from your customer? How can your customer collaborate with you in terms of, are you close to them? Can you get feedback? Are they willing to share their opinions and all of that above contracts? In terms of let's have a contract, let's negotiate this thing. No, for Agile, the main work is how well can you collaborate with your customers? The fourth value is responding to change over following a plan. All right. Because with the way agile is, right, you are launching smaller versions of your product, and you are getting feedback quickly. All right. So based on the feedback, you can quickly make changes. All right, rather than just following a laid down plan. There's some times that there's some time whereby as a product manager, right, you probably would have written your first requirements, right, for the first iteration, and you launch that iteration to a set of some users to test and all of that, and you realize that what you think what the assumptions you had, all right, and you start getting some feedback. You see how what your expectation on how users would interact with your product was different. What they are focusing on was different than what you think they would prioritize, or they would focus on more in the product. And when you see that difference or that changes, you take note of it and see how you can make the adjustment to align with how the users are interacting, or their need for that product, and in the terms of how they are making use of it. So it means that in Agile, we are more responsive to change, because you are not bidding for a plan, you are bidding for a user. So it's how the user responds to your product. That's how you keep aligning and refining your product based on how they are responding and how they are using your product. In fact, there's some product that in the get go, this is what the owner of the business was intending to build. By the time they actually ended up building something different, but that was what and what the customer will actually needed. Do you understand? So that's the beauty about Agile. All right, it focuses more on the customer and how you can then quickly make change, rather than having a laid down plan and just want to strictly following that, irrespective of the feedback that customers are giving you. All right, so you're not making those changes. You're not being adaptable and all of that. So these are the values that Agile methodology upholds. All right. So now, what are the Agile principles, right? Remember, initially I mentioned the manifesto, right? Um, I mentioned the manifesto. Agile became popular after a manifesto was released. The sign this is and signed by 17 software developers in 2001. So there's what we call the Agile manifesto, right? Though it originated from software development, many other trades, including product management, have adopted the method of the Agile Manifesto, and it's based on 12 principles. So listen, guys, I'm going to read out those 12 principles for you now. So customer satisfaction by early and continuous delivery. All right. So in Agile, we value the Agile methodology value customer satisfaction by early and continuous delivery. It means that you must always quickly release. You must always quickly, early enough, release your updates and continuously release updates that would ensure that your customers are satisfied. All right. So if you're looking at your review feedback and your customers are complain about something, and you're not quickly releasing those, updates, those enhancements, you are not being agile. All right. So agile welcome changing requirements. All right. So in agile, there's room for your requirements changing. So there's no, oh, this is hard, let it be like that. No, your requirements are always changing based on feedbacks. All right. The third one said deliver working software frequently, working product. All right. So ensure that whatever you're putting out is working. Ensure it is working. All right. The main focus is having a working software, a functional software. The first one says close daily cooperation between business and developers. All right. So it means that there has to be a cooperation, a good collaboration between the business side of things and the developers. All right. Projects are built around motivated and trusted individuals. So as a product manager, you have to be in a place where you are constantly motivating your team. All right. Yeah, they trust you. They trust what you're trying to. They trust what you're trying to build, the vision for the product, in a way. So as a product manager, right, your main goal, one of your main goal, your middle team, all right, I think I mentioned it here, guys. As a product, sometimes they call you the CEO of the product, and one of the major work of a CEO, all right, is to sell the vision of the company. But you were a product management means that you have to manager. It means that you have to sell the vision of the product. Let your team be able to embody the vision of that product. That okay, this is what we are trying to achieve. All right. Even though things will change in the approach, in the manner, or in your journey to getting to achieve that, but you understand what the vision entails, and you guys are all totally sold in or sold out towards it. Face-to-face communication is the best form. All right. Face-to-face communication is the best form. Working software or product is the primary measure of progress. Working software or product is the primary measure of progress. You have not made any progress if your product is not working. That's your first sign of progress. You've not made any progress. Sustainable development, able to maintain pace. All right. Sustainable development, able to maintain pace. And also we have continuous attentions to technical excellence. So it means that you need to have details in the kind of stacks that your technical leader, your technical guys are using. Pay attention to how they are building, what kind of stack, what kind of technology did they use. All right. Simplicity. All right. You have to be as simple as possible. The act of maximizing the amount of work not done. All right. So you are simple as possible. Self-organizing team produce the best results. This one says your team is able to self-organize. Whether you are there or you're not there, they know how to organize themselves to ensure that the the you're able to have a working product. All right. Everyone is not so dependent. There's no micromanaging or anything happening. You know what your tax is, you know what you do, and everyone gets on board. The last one says team regularly reflect on how to become more effective. So there's a part what we call retrospect, where we review the sprint. Retrospect, we look at the sprint and we discuss things that we did well, things that we didn't do well, and recommendation on how we can improve that. So that's something that's regularly done in Agile to ensure that you are improving and you are being effective. All right. So what's the difference between Agile road mapping versus waterfall? All right. I wrote here that in traditional waterfall environment, roadmap layout long-term plans and strategies in a pretty specific terms. While things may change based on unforeseen development, the general idea is that what's spelled out for the next 12 to 24 months is what's going to happen, and that is wrong. That's waterfall for you, right? That for that 24 months is or the 12 months is what everybody will do. Right? But in Agile, things will change, will most likely change. Right. So you should be open to those changes when you're doing Agile. So there's no that is this what we have in this plan is a set in stone. No one is changing anything. No. All right. So those the product roadmap provide lots of values as various departments can plan accordingly, whether it's plotting marketing campaign, hiring staff with specific skills, stocking up on particular inventory. People can prepare for what's coming. So yeah, and the beautiful thing is that there are some projects that Waterfall works for. It just works for it, right? Because of the nature of that product. For example, now if you are constructing a what's it called, a building, an hotel or something, the most construction organization use Waterfall because why? They need to you should have the full, at least you have to have the full design, lay down plan, layout and all of that fully fleshed out before you start building. You can't start saying you want to build you want to build iteratively for a house. You can't do that for a house or for construction, right? The full design of the bridge or the construction has to be fully laid out, all right, before any development or any building will progress. So in those areas, right, waterfall is applicable, right? But for software development, where you will quickly want to get feedback, you know that you are not just building for a client, you are building um, for users who can be very um, who can who are very, how would I call it now, who can always change their mind at any time, who are very diverse in things that they want, things that they need. All right. So yeah. But the predictable nature of waterfall-based products is also what makes them very unpopular among agile crowd. All right. It's too predictable. All right. And there's nothing when it comes to customer that is predictable. And that's one reality software developers or product managers have understand. When you are trying to bring a product to the market, it's not that predictable. There's no like a one way to it. So it means that you have to be open to being adaptable. But waterfall, we already know that this is what we are trying to build in terms of, which is why I'm using construction, right? There's a predictable set of um, roadmap that everyone needs to follow and everyone needs to align. I wrote it, I said, waterfall can be a great approach when of time and costs are required. But the downfall of working with waterfall approach is that it's very rigid. It takes longer to deliver any value and presents a different type of risk with new product development. Since it means spending a whole lot more money before you get to any market feedback by which to validate your product. All right. So you really don't want to wait till you have a whole fledged product, before you want to enter the market when you don't even know the position or the standpoint or how the customer will react to it. All right. So you really want to get your product out to the market quickly as possible. And remember I mentioned in the first principle, which is um, the first principle, which is continuous delivery dates. All right. So it means that you must be quickly fast and at bringing out the next update based on the feedback that your customers are giving you after your launch. All right. So agile product development process. All right. The agile product development process involves several stages. The first one is product vision and roadmap. All right. What is product vision and roadmap? This is a process. This process begins with defining clear product vision, creating a high-level roadmap with outlines that aligns the major features and releases. The roadmap serves as a guide but remain flexible to accommodate changes. So in Agile product management, product development, first thing is the product manager has to define or outline the vision of the product. What are we trying to accomplish? And what are the high level features that this product needs? All right. And what are the when do you want to release this? When at the time you're going to be releasing those features to your customers? You outline that as well. All right. Like I said, be open to changes. Second one is backlog moving. So backlog, product backlog is a prioritized list of desired features, requirements, and improvements. So you have your backlog is a list of features or requirements or improvements that you prioritize, that you know that this is priority. I know you guys still remember when we discussed different kind of prioritization and how we prioritize. What should be our core focus when we are prioritizing? All right. So you prioritize all your features, the requirement, the improvements, and that is what. So based on those priorities, these are what you. That was what becomes you put in your backlog. So during your backlog grooming, the product owner works with the development team to refine, prioritize the backlog items based on customer feedback. Look at that, market trend and business goals. So you've done that prioritization and you've refined the requirements or the improvement or the features. All right. So that's what backlog grooming is called. Then next we have the sprint planning. Sprint planning is agile development is organized in short iteration called sprint. Yeah. So typically it's 1 to 4 weeks, but most companies use 2 weeks. All right. At the start of each sprint, the team select a subset of high priority backlog items to work on during that sprint. So remember, we already talked about that there's a backlog grooming where you refine some set of features that you want to work on. All right. So when you're not doing that planning, you are then, um, you are planning those based on the priority, right? You're then subsetting it for each sprint. So let's say your features, you have about 30 features, and you prioritize those 30 features. You know the ones that needs to go first, the one that needs to go, and all of that based on on what is based on the business goal and all of that, you know, and or the impact to the user or the needs that the user what the user needs to accomplish. So you've done that priority. So you then start subsetting them into sprint. Put like you say you have like okay, we have about five features that we're entering the first sprint, another 5 or 6 enter the second sprint, another set will enter the third sprint, and you then be releasing sprint by sprint. You of course remember that diagram I shared. You define, you review, you build, you test, you review, and you launch. So that's that's what you keep doing within each sprint. All right. That's what we call the daily stand-up. Right. So this is like a brief meeting called stand-ups. It helps you to synchronize your work, identify the blockers, and ensure transparency and collaborations. All right. So daily stand-up is where most like the way daily stand-up goes is like this. Yeah, it's in you ask questions such as what did you work on yesterday, what are you working on today, and if there's any blocker, any challenge you're experiencing, so that you guys can quickly address that quickly before every day. So because while you're working, you always keep coming up with different challenges, coming up with different blockers or anything that you may experience. So every day all the team gets an update, a daily stand up, which is more like an update meeting, right? Where you quickly brief yourself on where you are, what are you working on, is there any challenges? If there's any, you get on the call, you trash that thing, you move the blockers. As a product management manager, your goal is to remove any or the product owner. All right. So we have the sprint execution. All right. So during the sprint, the team works on delivering the completed backlogs within that sprint through a series of development, testing, integration activities, peer programming, test-driven development, and continuous integrations are commonly used practice. All right. So there's something what we call peer review, whereby engineers would review their own code. One engineer will review another person's code, another engineer will review another person's code, such that because sometimes, right, and this never happened to you, whereby you draft maybe a letter or a message, all right, and you read that message, you read it like 2 times, you not see any error, all right, and when you send it, all right, when you send it, all right, and your brain is no longer focused on the message, whether you look at the total, you just spot one somewhere, you just spot one grammatical error somewhere, all right. I mean, like, how did I miss this? But before you send that message, you share it with somebody like, please let me proofread this thing. The person will quickly see that message because their brain is not um is not how will I put it? Their brain is not being taxed, all right, in a way because they're not the one coming up with the message coming up with the message, so they can easily spot any grammar or any error in that message. So that's how code you most likely won't see someone else external looks at it. They can quickly see whatever you most likely must have been did not see in your code. So that's what we call peer programming or peer review or code review in Agile. There's a test-driven development test codes in Agile. So the sixth one is sprint review and retrospective. Right. So at the end of each sprint, the team demonstrate the completed work during the sprint review. All right, so that's what happened in the sprint review. Everyone comes and demonstrate their work and ensure that it is working. You get, is it working? Is it meeting the acceptance criteria for that features? All right. Um, so that's what happened during the sprint review. And then they also conduct retrospective meetings to identify areas for improvement, implement changes in the next sprint. All right. So retrospective meeting is something that holds at the end of the sprint as well, where you discuss areas of improvement. I try to identify areas of improvement and ways you can implement those changes in that next sprint. So if there is how you can improve in the next sprint, you are developing a code or some challenges and things like that. You can always see how you can improve that in the next sprint. All right, next one we have release and development. So um, once enough functionality has been developed and tested and is working, product increment is released to customers to deploy to the production environment. So which is why most times when you see your app, you're always getting updates, seeing updates. It's because they are deploying a release and they're rather probably using Agile. So based on the first release or the first update, some set of users have used it and they're saying that why is it so hard to click on save button? Why is this so I can't move to the next screen? This. I'm getting an error here, so all of those feedback they can get that and ensure that in the next sprint those issues are already been resolved. All right. So so the release cycle is typically more frequent than traditional development approach. So sometimes there are some apps that in like 2 weeks you can have like four updates. Have like four updates that you need to do, and that's good because you are trying to improve on the product. All right. The eighth one says continuous improvement. The agile process emphasizes continuous learning and improvement based on customer feedback, market changes, lesson learned. The product backlog is regularly updated, and the development process is refined to optimize value delivery. I think that's straightforward in itself. All right. So this next page, we're looking at agile product development methodologies and frameworks. All right. I know there are a couple of things I will mention here that won't be new to some people, especially if you are one that is already working and you're working in most startups in a startup or even in new organizations right now. Because most of these organizations use Scrum, use Kanban, use Scrum Bank, they combine, all right. You know, so so the widely used methodology um, in Agile, we have the Scrum, the Kanban, the Lean, and the Hybrid, which is what we call the Scrum Bank. Right. So Scrum methodology is one of the most popular Agile methodologies, particularly suitable for complex product development projects. It follows an iterative, incremental approach with work divided into short tasks called sprint. So most of all of the things we're talking about are actually majorly Scrum, actually, in terms of the sprint and all of that. Um, Okay, well, sprint is also applicable in Kanban anyway, but we'll get it. The key Scrum practice includes sprint planning, daily stand-up meeting, sprint review, sprint retrospect. I already define what all of that means. So Scrum roles include Scrum Master, Product Owner, Development Team, to ensure smooth execution and collaboration of that product development. All right. So we're going to look at what Scrum Master and Product Owner and it means later in this lesson. All right. So we have another one called the Kanban methodology. So Kanban is a lean methodology focusing on visualizing the workflow and maximizing efficiency. It utilizes a Kanban board to track work items through various stages like to do, in progress, done. So at least in my own organization, we use both. We use both the Kanban. So we use to combine this Kanban actually. You know, we track workflow from to do to progress done, and we still track it over the sprint as well. All right. So during the so every day during the stand up or even personally, you can go to that board to know where the status of every work, each task is. So you can know if a particular task is still to do progress and still or it's been done already. All right. So limiting work in progress to avoid overburdening the team and continuous delivery of value by pulling new work when capacity is available, improving the flow of work through process optimizations, bottlenecks removal. All right. So the beauty of Kanban is that when you have your update meeting, right, or rather your stand up, okay, you can know where which stage a um particular team member is, whether a particular task have been given to them is still all in to do and they've not started working in it, or everything is in progress, or it's been progress for more than 2 weeks and it's meant to just be, the what's it called, the effort for that feature should literally just take them 3 days, but it's been there for like 2 weeks. So you can then speak to the developer like, what's happening? This thing should have gone out. And the person might then tell you, okay, these are the challenges that we have. We have a blocker. It's a particular integration that we need that we don't have yet. So it's currently moved to block. So you might want to then have a new stage that says blocked. All right. So the next one is lean product development. I know we mentioned that in our last class. Lean thinking aims to eliminate waste and maximize value delivery. The principles include minimizing upfront requirement gathering and focusing on iterative learning. So we are not trying to create the whole full-fledged requirement upfront. As you are iterating, you are learning and you're improving your requirements and improving what you are developing. Viable products MVP to validate assumptions early. Continuous improvement through short feedback loops and waste elimination. All right. So we have the hybrid, which is the Scrum Ban. Many organizations adopt hybrid methodologies like Scrum Ban, which combines Scrum iteration cycle and Kanban workflow-based approach. This flexibility allows teams to tailor processes to specific needs and contexts. All right. The choice of methodology depends on factors like team experience, project complexity, organizational culture. So it depends on. So you can get an organization whereby they're not using Scrum. They're not using Scrum. They're using Kanban. All right. You get an organization that they're not even using any of these three. They're using some other ones, separate ones. Let me look at. I know there's more than what we have here. I know there's more to what we have here. We have what we call the extreme programming, which is mostly used in software development. All right, I didn't have that here. There's more framework than what we have here, but I just put the major three ones that are mostly used. Right. There's what we call the SAFe, the Scaled Agile Framework. Most companies use the SAFe method actually, not not the Scrum. All right. This is where you're scaling agile across multiple teams of organizations. Right. And there's a major certification that you need to have. There's some companies that require you to be certified in this SAFe scaled agile framework. You know, yeah. So there's that part. So you can go up online, read more on um other frameworks that is in agile. All right. So, but like I said, the choice of methodology depend on factors like the team experience, the project complexity, and the organization structure. Effective implementation requires a deep understanding of agile values and principles. But in all of the frameworks, all right, it all still aligns with the major principles and values, right? Everything still aligns with our values. So in fact, you can even come up with your own methodology, but it has to still align with the agile value and frameworks. So here we have the agile product development rules and responsibilities. Agile product development rules and roles and responsibilities. I beg your pardon. Right. So successful agile product development requires a collaborative team effort with clear rules, roles, and responsibility. Right. So there are core set of rules that is in agile. The first one, and I see that I know I mentioned it earlier, was the product owner. All right. Product owner. I know you must have seen what's it called now? You must have seen roles. Yeah, there they wrote product owner, product owner. This course is product management, product manager, right? So who is the product owner? Who's the product manager? And all of that. Yeah, but one thing you need to understand is that product owner is specific to agile. Product owner is specific to agile. All right. It's very, very specific to agile. Right. So the responsibility is for maximizing the value of the product from the customer's perspective. Maximizing the value of the product from the customer's perspective. The they manage the product backlog. The backlog means that all of the features that you're prioritizing, they define user stories and prioritize requirements. So what product owners will do is that the the high level requirements that you got as a product manager, the product owner gets it, then define user stories for each of those features. User stories will be something like I want to be able to do this so that I can do something. All right. So user stories always go in the sense of the person, what they're trying to achieve and why they're trying to achieve that. So that's literally how a user story is being written. All right. And prioritize the requirement and ensure that development teams understand the vision of the product. An effective product owner acts as the voice of the customer. All right. Then we have the Scrum Master. I know some of you must have heard this as well, Scrum Master, and yes, certification that is really important for you to, if you want to, be efficient in your agile in agile. All right. So they coach the team, ensure adherence to agile principles. They facilitate meetings like stand up, daily stand up, retrospect. They remove impediments, protect the team from external distraction. The Scrum Master enables the smooth execution of the project of the agile project. Agile, the person that ensures that the process is effectively followed. Everyone adhere to it is Scrum Master. They ensure that they're able to remove any blocker for anyone. They facilitate any of those meetings, they stand up, the retrospective, remove any impediment, any bottleneck for any of the team members that is experiencing any of that blocker, right? And they're showing that the execution of the agile process is smooth. So that's where Scrum Master is. So we have the development team. This is the group of professionals, the cross-functional team basically. It could entail the developer, the designer, the tester, the even more. It could be like marketers or something like that. They are self-organizing and cross-collaborational, and with all the skills needed to turn product backlog into an increment of working software each sprint. So these are people that come together to ensure that put their skills together to ensure that for each product, for each sprint, we have a working software to release or a working feature to release. All right. Good development team are motivated, collaborative, focused on delivering high quality solution. So as a Scrum Master, you have your one of your or Scrum Master or as a project manager or even a product manager that is using an agile methodology. Your role is to ensure that every one of your team is motivated. Are they collaborative? Do you have what it takes for them to collaborate? What set of tools have you put in place for them to be able to effectively collaborate? One person can look at his own, the next person's work, understand what's going on, give it feedback, and the other one can do the same. All right, that's collaboration at work. All right. Um. Okay. So that's for the roles and the responsibilities. So what are the practices and techniques that we have in agile process product development? All right. I wrote here that agile product development lies on a set of key practices and techniques to deliver high quality product rapidly and efficiently. All right. So one techniques we have is called the iterative and incremental development. Iterative development. All right, so rather than developing an entire product upfront, Agile team break it down into smaller increments or iteration. Each iteration focus on delivering a potentially shippable product increment that provides value to the customer. The iterative approach allows for a frequent feedback, adaptation to changes, continuous refinement of the product. All right. So with this, right, it's all about being iterative, all right, and ensuring that for each iteration, is a level of value is provided to your customer. And when I say value, it means that the customer can use that particular thing to do and achieve something, to get an outcome, to get something done. So if that cannot be fully defined, all right, um in that iteration, in that sprint, you not right, you are not being agile. All right. So we have what we call the user stories and backlog management for agile product development. User story are simple, informative description of product requirements written from the user's perspective. All right, it's written from the user's perspective. The product backlog is an ordered list of these user stories that capture the entire product scope. All right, so you have a list of user stories or features or that you and they're like high level, right? High level before you even start breaking them into requirements or even breaking up. But you know the things that you want your customers to be able to achieve. In a business analysis, they just call it functionalities or things like that. But you already know what your customer wants to achieve. So which is why user story is different from use case, right? User story is different from use case. The standpoint, the perspective you're looking at it from is different. Use case is looking at things from a business standpoint. User story is looking at it from a user standpoint. All right, what is the user trying to achieve? Um, who is the user trying to do it? What are they trying to achieve, and why are they trying to do that? All right, when you have that fleshed out, it's easy for any developer or engineer to really be able to conceptualize and embody the vision of what they're trying to be because they know who the user is, they know what they're trying to do, and they know why the user wants to do it. So it's really easy for you to communicate quickly what you're trying to achieve for that future when that is being spelled out. Do you guys get it? All right. So product owner is responsible for managing and prioritizing the backlog based on the business value and stakeholder feedback. We have the sprint planning and execution. I already talked about this. So throughout the sprint, the team collaborates closely and holds daily stand-up to discuss progress. We have the continuous integration and development. All right, the agile team strives for continuous integration, where developers frequently merge their code changes into a shared repository. All right. So you are constantly integrating. So integrating is whereby we are merging each code continually into the larger repository. All right. You know, so your everyone is racing their PR, and all of that, and you are merging all of it into a singular product, a working product. This practice coupled with automated testing enables early detection and resolution of integration issue. Continuous deployment takes this a step further by automatically deploying the integrated code to environment. So when you have done your when you have you've merged, all right, and you've done your testing, there's a continuous development process whereby automatically your code is meshed to production. All right, automatically is made to production. Production usually just means the environment that the user can access. All right, that's what production environment is, or go live, or yeah. So that's the environment user can. All right. All right. So we have what we call retrospect continuous improvement for retrospect continuous improvement for agile product development. All right. So at each iteration, I know I already mentioned this. You conduct a retrospect to reflect on what you went well, what could their process accordingly. So you see how beautiful agile is, right? It just makes work pretty easy. Helps you ensure that you're actually doing the right thing, because at the end of each sprint you are always getting feedback, discussing with the team to know what went well. What do we do well? What do we need to improve, guys, from what we just from this almost concluded sprint? And you see how you can get those feedback to make those changes in the next sprint. All right. So we have what we then call agile testing and quality assurance. So this one is mostly done by the QA team. All right, whereby testing is an integral part of agile development process rather than separate phase. Agile team employ practice like test-driven deployment (TDD), behavior-driven development, and acceptance test-driven development. Or test-driven is which one? That one is mostly what you do as a product. Your product, of course, you both the product and the test and the QA team do this actually, right? All right, such that you have a set of acceptance criteria that you've listed for that user stories that you can use to check and know that, okay, is this particular feature, this particular build, is it meeting the requirement for this user story? All right, is it meeting the acceptance criteria for this user story? The way you spell it out, is that how it's being built? To ensure code quality and align deliverables with customer expectation. All right. And what got then the peer programming and code review. I did explain this previously, whereby involves two developers collaborating on writing code at a single station. That's a peer programming. And code review is where team members review each code, promote knowledge sharing, and catch defects early, adherence to coding standard and best practices. In my own current place of work, there's something we do when we do our code review. Your code has to be reviewed by 2 engineers and be approved by 1 senior engineer. So it means that your code has to will most likely be reviewed by 3 engineers, just so that one is coding in a weird way, or using some not so standardized approach. Because when you're coding, there are best practice in way you should code some things. All right. So that helps in ensuring that you are able to detect any, catch any defects in those code before merging it. All right. So that's for practices in techniques and in agile product development. So there's an area what we call then the scaling agile for large projects, scaling agile for large projects. All right, and that's where I think the SAFE comes in. All right, SAFE, SAFE, yeah. All right, so I wrote here, I said with agile methodology, where originally designed for small, yes, co-located team, the success of agile has led many large enterprise to adopt this practice across the organization. So now, when you then have a very large team, most most um, most most team in a sprint sometimes are not more than 10, 15 maximum people in a sprint. If it's getting more than 15 or 10, it's too low, it's too much. So agile is literally most times suitable for smaller teams. All right. So now, but when you have a large team and you have a complex project with multitude of teams, stakeholders, a lot of people interfacing and all of that, what do you do? How do you then scale agile? What kind of agile approach can you use to cater for this? So we're going to look at all of those things. So we have scaling frameworks for agile product development. All right. So this pretty much came out in terms of ways to help organizations scale agile beyond team level, even to looking at an organizational level of using agile. So in that framework, we have what we call the Scrum or Scrums. This approach aligns and coordinates and integrates multiple Scrum teams working on the same product. All right. So in my organization right now, we have for just one particular product, because in the organization we have like several products, right? One product. What they then did was then we then have several sections of this product. All right. I work for an healthcare tech company. All right. And the I've worked for one for a year, but currently, so what they then do is categorize each aspect of the healthcare that is being provided, each aspect of the solution. So because healthcare will cover clinical aspects, it will cover operational aspects, it will cover billing aspects in terms of how you pay for your this thing, all of that. It will cover finance aspects. It will cover other other aspects. Let's just major with those four. All right. So for each section, we then have Scrum team for each of those sections, each of those areas. So a Scrum team that is focusing on clinical is only building features for clinical. Another Scrum team is building things for operational a part of the solution. Another Scrum team is building um, for what's the other one I mentioned? For the billing part of the solution. Another part of the solution is building for the accounting part of the solution. Another one is building for the, based like that from that. So it helps you to scale. So you have several Scrum team within an organization for a product. So that's what Scrum looks like in a more that's what Scrum in a more practical way. All right. So each team has a representative who participates in the Scrum meeting to discuss progress, dependencies, and impediment. So within each, we then have people who can literally be the Scrum masters for each of those what's the name? Scrum team. We then come together and still have a Scrum meeting to discuss, how is progress going, any challenges, any dependencies from each team. Because there's sometimes there can be dependency whereby particular component or section in billing is what is required in clinical, or there needs to be an handshake with a particular component and things like that, on which may be then become a blocker for an engineer who is working on a particular solution in other Scrum. All right, so that communication, that collaboration can effectively work Scrum because of Scrum. All right. We then have large scale Scrum, which is the LESS, builds on Scrum principle but provide rules and guidelines for scaling agile development across multiple teams. It emphasizes having one product backlog for the entire project and one definition of done. All right, so this one is a large Scrum. So initially Scrum are mostly around 10, 12 team, but this one will likely have more than that, maybe like about 30 to 40 or even more, more um more more team, more team, but they're just focusing on one project. All right. Okay, I repeated this. Okay, so here the next we then have disciplined agile, right? This is a pragmatic approach that applies an agile strategies in a context specific way across the entire delivery process. So this is more on a context level. It's not applicable across, right? So it covers enterprise levels concerning things like security, data management, and governance. All right. So you see that the fact that it applies both lean and agile strategies. All right. So you might want to see how you're combining that in terms of where you're looking at areas like security, data management, and governance. All right. Then we then have that scaled agile framework, which is the same I talked about. This is a comprehensive framework for implementing agile practices at enterprise scale. It synchronizes alignment, collaboration, delivery for a large number of agile teams. So one thing I would advise you guys to do is, in addition to this product management, you might want to get courses that focuses on, you on data framework, or that focus on agile framework itself, or Scrum. All right. So because of how broad, how robust, I didn't go into details of Scrum because Scrum is a very large, it's a very broad framework. All right. I attended, I did some courses on that as well, personally, and it took about a couple of weeks, so it is a lot of detailed approach, in fact, looking at how to write user stories, how to write your acceptance criteria, how to conduct um what's it called, your conduct your stand up, how to um you know conduct your sprint planning, sprint refinement, how to refine your backlog. What are the strategies on the best way to refine your backlog? When do you have a sprint? Without this, there's sprint backlog, there's product backlog. When do you start your sprint backlog and things like that? There is a whole different ball game. So and that's not it's not within the scope of this class anyway. So can't go into all those details anyway. But I would advise you, if you really want to you want to be a solid product manager, all right, get certified in all of these things as well. It will help you a lot, help you stand out especially if you're trying to get, if you're trying to get into the product management space, you know. All right. So here we also have the agile portfolio management. I didn't fix it up. All right. So um, so we have what we call agile portfolio management. All right. This is scaling agile also requires adaptation to portfolio management, governance, organization design. So in terms of the reason why, so agile is not only used for product management, but product management can use it. So, but when you're managing portfolios, right, there are some contextual approach that you use when you're managing portfolio. All right. I'm just trying to touch up on everything because of this course focus on agile. All right. This particular lesson focus on agile. Right. So enterprises need processes for evaluating and prioritizing work across different teams and value streams. So agile product portfolio management tools like lean portfolio management can help align strategy and execution. with execution, I mean. So there's what we call the Agile Portfolio Management. There's what we call distributed teams for Agile Product Development. All right. So many large-scale Agile initiatives also involve what we call the geographical distribution team. All right. This is when you are now working across different time zones. I know some of you, you've seen roles whereby they are okay. Currently, my company uses this as well because the theme works across several time zones. I have teams that I collaborated that work in India, Philippines, United States, and Botswana. All right. So everyone collaborates in a way whereby, regardless of your time zone, you're able to work effectively. So that's the beauty of this distributed team for agile product development. Okay, this raises additional coordination challenge across time zone and cultural difference and infrastructures. So businesses may need to invest in collaboration tools, automated dev practices, and travel budget to facilitate and facilitate swarming and face-to-face events. All right, there are times whereby we even meet physically to ensure that everyone is fully aligned. We get tools that will help us, do our testing, help us do a lot of things such that regardless of the place you are, the time zone you are, work is being done, product is being released, features is being released on time. So what we have in scaling agile, we look at what we call the organizational changes. All right. All right. So I always say that perhaps the biggest order is transforming the organizational culture, right, and mindset to embrace agile values. So, one of the challenges that people face in agile is how to change the mindset of people that are actually what they're used to is the waterfall. So you now want to start instilling the values of agile into your team, which is transparency, continuous improvement, decentralized decision making, and things like that. This requires it requires hand-on training, coaching, visible leadership, support to drive sustainable changes across the enterprise. So when scaling agile, for a large project, you need to consider organization changes as well. So, yeah, I think that's enough. So here we're looking at agile tools and technologies. So what are the tools that we use in agile that helps us be effective in making use of agile method? All right. I wrote here, I said effective agile product development relies on having the right set of tools and technology to support the process. A wide variety of agile tools are currently ranging from product management and tracking tools to to collaboration tools to coding platforms. So there are several tools that you use in agile to make sure that the process is effective. All right. So there are tools that you use for project management. There are tools you use for tracking your tasks. There are tools you use to collaborate as your team. There are tools you need to ensure you are coding properly and all of that. Like I said, choosing the right tool set is essential for enabling agile practices like continuous integration, test automation, frequent delivery. So you already know the practices of agile. So you know how to select the right tool that will help you achieve it. Continuous integration. What tool will help you be able to always merge your code, have your code merged so that you can release it to your users on time. All right. What tool will help you quickly automate your testing, whereby you can quickly test, review your code, your work, and quickly know where the errors is, where there is a defect or where there's an issue, and frequent delivery in the terms whereby you are releasing to your users. All right. Continuous distribution is whereby you are merging your code, you are easily merging, but frequent delivery is whereby you are quickly delivering updates to your users. So from the first sprint, you already getting feedback based on what are the concerns, what are the things that what are the concerns, what are the problems that this current build has we've been able to observe from this current build. You get us feedback, you then make those changes in the next thing. And because you don't want customers, you don't want users or customers churning your app. Churning means leaving your app or stop going to another user, another competition app. You have to ensure that you are releasing updates quickly. Imagine you release a one update and you are getting feedback about issues that customers are experiencing immediately before that next sprint. Because since your sprint is happening in 2 weeks or 1 week, you can quickly prioritize that issue in your next sprint so that you can quickly work on that and release it for the next sprint before customers start getting over complacent or over complaining, and they want to start leaving you up. In fact, it's for most people, most users, or most app users, right? You know, when we use app and we see that okay, we experience a particular challenge, and in the next in like 1 week, in like next week, we are seeing updates, and and that bug has been solved. In fact, it makes me want to use the app more because I know that these people are listening to my complaints. They're listening to the needs of the customer. Do you guys get that? So in a sense, you have to ensure that you have tools, you have to set to ensure that you can quickly release this updates quickly to your customers such that they don't have to complain for long before they get the resolution. All right. Or maybe there's a request for a need for a feature and you see the demand is rising among users. They shouldn't wait so long before they get that update. Do you guys get it? So which is why Agile is it's a very appropriate approach or practice when developing software. All right. So the first tool we're looking at is the Agile Product Management tools. All right. These tools is for planning your sprint, creating and prioritizing your backlog, tracking work items, visualizing your progress, and when implementing. So popular ones that we know here, we know Jira, Vision One, Azure. I've used Jira, I've used Azure DevOps, I've used Trello. I've not used Riley before. I've not used version one before, but Jira is one of them. So I want to go online and just see how Jira is being used. All right, watch video on how to use Jira, how to use Azure, how to use Asana, how to use Trello, how to use Notion. Notion too is a very good tool for project management as well. All right, so these tools provide features like Kanban board, burn down charts, release planning, and reporting. So all of those things that we have in Scrum, they are already inbuilt into this product management tool, so you can easily use them to manage your team. All right. Then we have the collaboration and communication tools, um, which is which helps in to help in transparency and frequent communication across the team. We have tools like Slack, we have things like Microsoft Teams, we like Zoom, we have Zoho. Some people use Zoho, some people use Skype. I've used Skype before at one point. You know, Google, Google Space, Google Workspace. Yes, Google Workspace as well. Some companies use Google Workspace, and on other video conferencing app, right? There's Google Meet as well. Okay, Google Meet is embedded into Google Workspace. So yeah, some people use that as well. This helps to ensure collaboration. All right, we have wikis, cloud storage, documentation tools also support knowledge sharing as well. All right, then we have what we call the continuous integration, CI or delivery tools. This is most likely what is used by engineers most times or your DevOps teams. All right, this is to achieve continuous integration and delivery. So development uses combination of version product system such as Git, all right, like Git, all right, CI servers, Jenkins, Circle CI, entries, test automation frameworks, and deployment automation tools, and cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud provide um, Blue Oceans. There's Blue Oceans as well for your cloud platform, um, which provide integrated CI CD services. All right. So yeah, so these are tools that continuous integration that you can use, and all of that. So did I repeat these? It was really feel like I repeat stuff. All right. So we have Agile requirements and test management. So robust requirements and management and test case management capability are critical for defining and validating your user stories and requirements. And Jira is one tool that also has that as well. It helps you to manage your requirement document. So there's a particular solution in Jira that's called Confluence. It helps you to document your requirements and manage those requirements in terms of handoff and feedback. That there's the Vision One as well, and the Zepe, Zepe, is it Zepe? How's that pronounced? Which provides traceability between requirement, test case, and defect. So you can trace how those requirements have been updated, what changes has been done in the requirement, and things like that. So you can track that easily among your team. And next, we have the agile metrics and analytics for agile product development. All right. So agile team need robust metrics and analytics around burn time rates, cycle times, defect rates, technical depth, and other KPIs to measure progress. Like maybe you're trying to measure um, numbers of downloads, numbers of users, paying users, and things like that. Um, so there are other tools like that that you use. There's a tool that I use which is called Mixpanel. That one is mostly used to measure, to analyze user engagement on the platform. All right, how are user checking out? How are user engaging on a particular, clicking on a particular button? How many users are clicking? What kind of users are using this feature? How are the it helps you pretty much analyze and visualize your metrics and know what to adjust, what to improve on, and things like that. So there are tools like that that helps you with those analytics and all of that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for Agile. Like I said, right, Agile is very robust. This is just the fundamentals, pretty much, guys. This fundamental just give you an overview of what Agile entails. It's way robust and it's way robust. I can send you the for I think for Scrum self, it's almost like a 300-page document on just Scrum, on like Scrum itself. All right. So it's very robust. All right. So this is just to give you an overview of what it entails, and I would advise that you guys, maybe take separate courses that are focused on these things, and so that you can really get that knowledge and know how to use as a product manager. All right. So that's the end of this class. Let me know if you have any questions, and we can look at it together. Please tell me you guys have been hearing me well. Hope you guys have been hearing me.
Yes, we can hear you. I've been having issues signing the attendance.
Really? Okay.